When I first graduated from college, my favorite TV show was The X-Files. My degree was in science, my job was in science, and The X-Files was all about science, a kind of spooky science, UFO science, telepathy and shape-shifting science, my kind of science. Once I took this acting class because I heard it was a great place to meet girls. And surprisingly, we didn't do a lot of actual acting. We did a lot of exercises to prepare you to be able to get up on the stage. We did a lot of confidence-building exercises. Because when you're up on the stage, you have to be able to project your voice all the way to the back of the auditorium so the people in the back row can hear you deliver your soliloquy like a boss. Not only do you have to project your voice all the way to the back of the room, but you have to radiate the proper emotions. This requires an incredible amount of confidence. So we did a lot of exercise to build confidence. We did a lot of exercises to break out of the comfort zone so we could stand there confidently and say our lines. But not just confidence-building exercises, we did a lot of energetic exercises. Because when you're on stage with other actors, instead of just spitting memorized lines at each other, you have to vibe up each other's energy. So we did a lot of energy building exercises, a lot of exercises that required our eyes being blindfolded or not being allowed to speak so we could kind of play off each other's nonverbal subconscious energy. A lot of interesting exercises to expand what we think about communication. There's been one study that somehow shows an example of what, for lack of a better term, could be described as psychic communication. And scientists have no idea how to explain this. The study is very simple. They get a lot of study participants. They each watch 5 2-minute videos. Each of the videos is a certain emotional flavor: happy, sad, terrifying, etc. And then they take 2 random participants after they've watched all the videos, and they put them in 2 separate rooms. One person watches the video. The other person knows when the video starts and stops. The person watching the video has to try to project the energetic, emotional flavor of that particular video: happy, sad, terrifying, etc. The other person has to try to perceive telepathically what the emotional flavor of that video is and guess what it is. Because there are 5 videos, a random guess would give you about a 20% success rate, 1 out of 5. And most people get about 20%, which indicates they're just guessing. But there's one demographic that always scores 40%, which means there's some type of communication going on within this demographic that can't be explained by science, at least not yet. One of the recent discoveries that may shed light on the mystery of consciousness and free will is the existence of these teeny tiny microtubules that exist inside of our neurons. The main reason that free will is a mystery is up until about 100 years or so ago, it seemed like that we live in a deterministic universe, a universe governed by repeatable, measurable, predictable laws of physics. Theoretically, if you have a certain state, a certain system, and you understand everything about this system, and you understand the laws of physics, you could predict with 100% accuracy the future state of this system. And this type of reality doesn't seem to allow something like free will, which is completely unpredictable. But they think these nanotubes, some people think these microtubules in our brains might solve that puzzle because these are the perfect size and shape for a standing quantum wave. The macro universe is deterministic, Newtonian, but the super tiny quantum universe is based on probability. You can't predict it. And so they suspect, some people might suspect, that our consciousness has something to do with the quantum field theory. And there are some that sort of suspect that there is a kind of consciousness field that may be somehow related to the quantum field, which would explain how some experiments indicate that the observer of a quantum level experiment actually influences the outcome of the experiment. Just by watching something, just by being aware of something, we influence the outcome. There's a lot of other strange phenomenon within quantum mechanics. Niels Bohr, one of the original architects of quantum mechanics, said that if you think you understand quantum mechanics, you don't understand quantum mechanics. And one of these strange things that nobody really understands is something called entanglement. You get two particles and they somehow connect somehow. They become entangled. And then you separate them a great distance and they are still somehow entangled. If you change the state of one particle, the other particle instantly changes to match this one. And it doesn't matter how far apart they are. The Chinese have recently even done an experiment where they have one particle in a laboratory on Earth, one particle up in a satellite, and they're still instantly connected. This is a violation of Einstein's law of relativity, because the law of relativity says that nothing can go faster than the speed of light. But these are somehow communicating instantly, perhaps somehow through the quantum field. This is what Einstein called spooky action at a distance. About 100 or so years ago, they discovered radio waves. And at first, they didn't know what they were. They didn't think we would ever be able to use them. But later they figured out what radio waves were, and now we can use radio waves to communicate at a great distance. Somebody from a couple 300 years ago would come to the present and see us communicating over the airwaves and think it was magic. But it's really just science that they didn't know back then. Similarly, it might be possible in the future for us to understand these nanotubules in our brain and how they interact with maybe the consciousness field and maybe the quantum field, and we might be able to figure out how to communicate with these waves. Two brains through the consciousness field, connected, entangled at a great distance. One interesting mind experiment is to imagine taking a baby born today and then taking them with a time machine into the future, 2,000 years. And the question is, will that baby have any trouble growing up in a future 2,000 years from now and soaking up all the stuff they learn in school 2,000 years from now? The answer is probably not, because the brain does not evolve that much, if anything, in 2,000 years. And so whatever science we invent over the next 2,000 years, which will probably be a lot, little kids will learn that in elementary school like it's normal. The stuff we think today is magic will essentially just be the science that elementary school kids learn in the future. Whatever you think the brain is capable of today, it will be capable of a lot more in the future. The one demographic that always scores 40% on these psychic tests are people that know each other and that have practiced meditation for a long time. For some reason, when these two people that go into these two separate boxes, one guy projects emotions, the other guy receives emotions, friends that have practiced meditation of quieting down the mind, they somehow have some kind of connection that can't be explained by science, at least science that we know about yet. And because you can't explain it by science, it seems like magic. One of the cool experiments or exercises we did in acting class was after the class had gone on for a couple of months and everybody was familiar with each other, we would get into the center of the room and the teacher would call out a shape. And we would have to collectively make that shape without talking as quickly as we could. And it was spooky how quickly we could do that. He would say doghouse and people would just and then look, oh wow, we're a doghouse. Then he would say skateboard. Oh wow, we're a skateboard. It was like we voluntarily gave up our individual consciousness and became this collective consciousness, this kind of hive intelligence. It was one of the spookiest things I ever did. One of the reasons I think I liked the X-Files so much is because it was very well written. Every episode, they had this very strange thing happen. But they had two characters. One was a doctor, one was a UFO guy. And each character gave their version, their explanation of why this strange thing happened. And both were believable. It was believably described by science, and it was believably described by magic or some kind of paranormal phenomenon. And it was left to the viewer to decide who is right. But ultimately, I think they were probably both right. Because what is magic but science that we don't yet understand? Thank you.